Yes, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We are progressing. Like I promised in my last video that I'm going to show you how to create a one-page website. A very simple trick on how to create a one-page website. Maybe you visited a website before, or you're reading an article and then you clicked on a link and the link didn't open in a new tab. It rather scrolled you down or up to a particular section of that web page. Or you may have come to a website where you see something like back to top. So back to top, you clicked on back to top and then the thing scrolls you to the top. So that is what I'm going to show you how it is done. It is called a one-page website. So if you don't know how we came here, this is I want to continue with the web page we created in our last video. And if you have not watched the last video on how we created this web page that is very beautiful, please use the link in the description description below to watch the video. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this YouTube channel so that when we upload new videos on web development, on programming and other digital technologies, you will get notification. So please just subscribe and turn on the notification button. Thank you. It's just a button. Just click on the button. It is not too difficult. Okay, thank you so much. All right, now we've created this web page. So and if you go to our code, you will see that our navigation links are not linked to anywhere, but we only added the link to one of them, which I'm going to remove now. So I'm going to remove, which is this about us. I'm also going to remove this target blank because we no more need it in what we want to do. We no more need it at all. All right, okay, so now we have it this way, and then we just have a hash in all of them. So now if you go back and refresh, you click on about us, nothing happens because we are all in one page and it does not link to anywhere. So but what I want to do is to create sections for these three links, which is we're already on the home page. This is the home, so there's no need to create a separate page for it. I want to create a section for about us, contact us and our blog. All right, so what am I going to do? I'll go to my Visual Studio Code after our button, just before our footer, because it's not going to be inside the footer. I'm now going to say I'm going to declare a new div. I'm going to declare a new div, and that div I'm going to give it a class. Like I say, class is when you are working on a group of elements, when you want to give a particular styling to a group of elements. So I'm going to declare the class and call it I will call it sections. All right, I'll call it sections. Okay, so that is our div. So now what are we going to do in our CSS? You observe that when we come here and say section, okay, these are a class, so we're going to use the class selector, which is a dot, and we say section, and then we say the width of that section should be 100% of each container. Remember, like I said in our last video, and then we're going to give the height to be, let's say 300 pixel. Okay, and then finally we give it a background color. We give it a background color. We give it a deep blue color as well. And let's give it an orange color, an orange red color. Okay, an orange red color. All right, let's see what happens. Let's scroll down. You can see, why is this not showing anything? Okay, let me know what the problem is. All right, the problem here is that the name we declared is not correct. Here we said the class is sections, and here I said just section. You see how a simple mistake can cost you to suffer. So let's just add our S here, and then let's see what happens. We can now see that we have a beautiful section here, but you can see that this beautiful section is stuck to the button. So I'm going to say move away from the button, the margin top. I'm going to say margin top. When I say margin top, I will say margin top should be 20 pixel. All All right, let's see what happens. So it's now moved away from the button. So you can see that now, but you can see that it's just one div. All right, so what is going to happen? This is just one div. So if we make any other div, I'm showing you how class works. If we declare any other div, let me copy this, and now I will paste it into 3 times, into 2 more times, sorry. Are you seeing? So because this div has the class of section, and this div has the class of sections, and this div has the class of sections, and here we have style, we have a class styling which is for those sections. So all the divs are going to inherit this styling. So let's watch our browser. Look at what happened. Do you see that it's just duplicated 3 of the boxes? And if you observe that even the margin top I added for that first section, for that particular first div, it will add it to all of them. So you can see that all of them has a margin top. There's a space between all of them. All right, so the next thing, now let me show you something. Now if I make this background transparent, it's going to affect all of them. Sorry, it's going to affect all of them. Sorry, let me do something. All right, I want to just make it transparent and drag it down like this. Now look at what happens in the browser. That is what class can do for you. You can see that all the 3 boxes all inherited that particular property I just added, because all of them are of the same class. So what I'm going to do, we're going to add a title to now, separate titles to all of them. So what are we going to do now? In our section, we're also going to say that our test should align center, and then color should be white. Okay, let's say white. Let's just call it white. All right, now we see that now you know that a div does not have color, it have background color. So it's not going to change the color of those div. All right, you can see that nothing happens because the properties I just added to them is a property meant for a test. So it's only going to work when I put a test. Immediately I put a test inside any of the divs, is going to align them center, and that is what I call, of course, which I've told you is called inheritance. So because now the section, the parent itself does not make use of these 2 properties, but I have known that it's going to give birth to a child, which is a test which makes use of these properties. So now let's add a test to our first div. We're going to say h1. We're going to say h1, and then we say about us. Sorry. About us. Now let's see what happens. Okay, let me also copy this and put in the second box. The second box, I will say contact us. All right, then finally in the third box, I'm going to say our blog. Those are the 3 sections we have. Remember, our blog. All right, now let's see what happens in our browser. Did you see what happened? That all of them, all the about us, contact us, and our blog, they all have the color of white. And they are all aligned center. So that is inheritance. So instead of coming to declare my h1 or giving my h1 a separate class, I said let it just be there because I know what I want to add there. All right, so even if I add the paragraph within all of them, it's going to still align all of them center and give them the color of white. Okay, so now let me do something here. I'm going to give a paragraph. I'll say Lorem 70. Okay, so let's pick this. All right, so I'm going to copy this and put in all of them. They're just as describing this is a dummy test, but I just want to use it as a description for about us. Okay, and we also want to have a description for contact us and a description for our blog. All right, so let's see what happens. You can see that all of them are now there of the color of white, but then I can decide that the color of my paragraph should be the same, and if I want that to happen, then I have to give all of them a class. I have to give all of them a class. So if I come here and say class, sorry, my this is in cap lock, and I say class, and I say contact, okay, about, sorry, and I say about, and I come here, okay, sorry, this is not supposed to be, so I will say just, I will call it a section paragraph. Okay, so I'm going to give this class to all the paragraphs. I'm going to give this class to all the paragraphs. So I'll also come here and say class section paragraph, and then the last one I'm also going to give it the class of section paragraph. Okay, so now we copy this. We will have to copy this to work in our CXS. So if I come here and say because that is a class, we're going to use a class selector and section paragraph, and then I say the color, the color should be blue, should be blue. Now let's watch what happens. Are you seeing that even though I have declared that in the section the text of everything in my section should be white, but because I gave specific classes to the paragraph, even though they are inside that section, but they have just gotten the color. So in order of priority, when you give a class to specific element, it goes first. All right, so let me make this a deeper blue. You can see that all of them will now change to a deeper blue. All right, so our title is white and everything. You can see that it's also centralized, but I can decide to make this more better by compressing this particular text. So I'll go to that class and I'm going to say I want the margin left to be 200 pixel, because I want, I'll also make margin right. I also make margin right to be 200 pixel. All right, so let's see what happens. You see that it compressed all of them. So you can see that it's also stuck to this. I will also want to add a margin or margin top to it. I also add a margin top to let me say margin top of 100 pixel. So let's see. You see, it's now moved. All of them has now, that 100 pixel is too much. Let's make it 50. Let's make it 50. All right, so this is better. Okay, you can see that this about us is also too much at the top. So I'm going to work on my H1. I'm going to work on my H1 separately, and I will say H1. As H1, I will now say that the margin top should be, let's say, 50 pixel as well. 50 pixels, so that it will move a bit. Did margin I put? Okay, let me say padding instead. Let me say padding and know if padding does that. All right, so padding did that. So we now have it this way. We can decide to add a button. You can decide to add a button. Let's say in our about us, we can decide to have a. So let me just copy this first button that you see here. You see this first button that you see here. I'm going to copy it and then put in each of them and just change the text. All right, so this is that button. This is that button. And I will say, all right, I will say, I'll copy this, copy, and I will come to my about us. After my paragraph, I'm going to have a button here, and I will just call this one I will call this one no more. I'll call this no more. There's no more about us, you understand? Okay, let's see what happens. we can now see that there is now a button here. It's now a button. So but you see that in this button is stuck here, so we're going to work on our button because we already gave an ID to that button initially. You can see that our ID here is the button. So if we go to our button, you can see that if we need to give it a margin top. You need to give it a margin top so that it can move away a bit. We can say 30 pixel. All right, so let's see what happens. You can see it's going to it moves away. So instead of saying margin, I would rather prefer that we use padding. All right, because padding is just going to stretch it, it's not going to move it. So we say padding. So padding should move it to each content. All right. Oh, okay. Let's say margin top. Let's remove this thing, seems too much, so let's say 10 pixel. All right, then after that we have something very beautiful here. Now what do we do? We duplicate our button in each and every one of them, and then here I'm going to say my button. I'm going to copy my button and I also put it in the second one, Ctrl V, and in the third one, so that I want to have the button, all of them there. All right, so let's see what happens. You can see now we have buttons, button and button and button. Okay, but now we have to change the text. This one, the second one, should be contact. The last one is our blog. Okay, let's say visit our blog, and then the second one we're going to say contact us now. Okay, now let's watch what happens. All right, so you can now see that we now have about us. We're telling people to know more, and in the contact us we say contact us now, and in our blog we say visit our blog. So all of them are now, we now have 3 sections talking about 3 different things, but then we used an ID. Okay, we used an ID to work on the buttons. So the reason why the background and everything is the same is because here is our button and we attached an ID to it, and all the buttons have that particular ID, and so it is inheriting the properties we gave to that ID. Okay, now we have done that. Now back to what we wanted to do. How do we make a one-page website? Because now we now have all of our sections within one page. We now have all our sections within one page. We now have the about us, the contact us, our blog. You can see that if I click about us, nothing happens. Contact us, nothing happens. Our blog, nothing happens. So what do? We begin to assign an ID to all of this. So in my first H1, which is about us, I'm going to give it an ID. I'm going to give it an ID and say ID. I will say about. Now in the second H2, in the second H1, which is contact us, I'm going to say ID and I will say contact. That's the ID of that particular H1. Though we have our universal styling for H1 here, but it is not for ID, it is for H1. So anywhere it sees a text, is going to anywhere it sees H1 is going to give it this particular color. But this ID is when we want to work on a particular H1. So if we want to change the color of this particular contact us, the color, we are going to use this ID to change this color, because we have already said that all the H1 should be having the color of white. And where did we declare it? We declared it inside the section, since that H1 is inside the section. All right, so that is that to that. Okay, now the third H1, we are going to call it ID, and then we say blog. All right, so we have given the IDs. Now what are we going to do? Now we go to our navigation bar, and now instead of, I'm going to clean this. Now we are going to reference our ID instead of referencing a link. This is hyper reference. So this is home. We don't need anything for home. Home should be let's just say index.html, because that is the home. Okay, that is the home. All right, so now in our about us, we are going to reference our ID, and the ID we gave to that particular title is about. Remember, the spelling must be the same, and remember it must have a combination of is ID selector. So we use the hashtag, which is the ID selector, and then the about, and then the ID name itself, and it must be correct. Now we go to contact, and we say, we give you the ID of contact because we named it contact, and I remember that all of them are all small letter. And then here we say blog. So now you can tell our navigation links are now referring to sections of our website. So now let's see what happens. Now we refresh. Now if you refresh, now if I click on about us, you see that it takes you to about us quickly. So the first element to be seen on that website is that about us, and that is because why is this the first thing you are seeing when you click on about us? Because that is what we gave the ID. That is what we gave the ID. You can see that here this about us has the ID of about, and in our navigation we referenced it to about. So if we go back and then we click on contact, it's going to take us to contact because we gave an ID of contact to this particular one. Now if we go back and click on our blog, it takes us to this. All right, so you can now see how to create a one-page website. So with this, I can have various sections in this website, and everything will be here, but then I will now kind of create links for them in the navigation bar. Like I said, it's a one-page website. Even this know more and contact us and visit our blog, all of them can all be sections. We can decide to build a section that have a contact us button, a contact us form. All right, so now I believe you have learned how to build a one-page website right now. Now I want to show you something as well. So within our footer, I want to do something in our footer to show you how to put a back to top. All right, so our back to top, after our copywriters, I'm going to say I'm going to create a button. I think I have a button already in my clipboard, so I will say back. Okay, let me not put a button, let me just put a text, a simple text. I will say under paragraph, I will say back to top. Back to top. All right, so now here, all right, we will say back to top. We'll make it a link, please. So I have to cut this, and within my paragraph, I'm going to have an anchor element. Another anchor element, I'm going to say back to top, and then I will reference it to the top. Now, what is the element at the top? The element at the top is logo. All right, the element at the top is the logo. So now it means that whenever I click on back to top, it's going to take me on the logo. Now let's see which ID did we give to our logo. Now here is our logo. I can see we gave it an ID of logo. So in my back to top link, I'm going to reference it to logo. I'm going to reference it to logo. Okay, now let's see what happens. Let's refresh our page first of all. Now I want to scroll down. You can see in our scrolling down, you see a back to top here. A back to top here. It's like that is all right. You can see a paragraph showing back to top, but I don't know why this is rather down. But now when we click on back to top, it's going to take us back to the top. It's going to show us the logo. All right, so I want to bring this. All right, I know what happened. Why the back to top is inside. So we're going to work on our footer. We're going to work on our footer and say the footer should fit to content. That is the reason, because of the margin we added, because of the margin top we added to this particular paragraph in our footer. There was no more enough space for the paragraph to be contained. All right, for the second back to top to be contained. So we're going to say fit to content here. and when we fit to content, is going to accommodate that particular last text we wrote. You can now see that back to top is now within the footer. All right, so now we will click on back to top. It's going to take us back to top. That is a simple trick on how to create a one-page website. All right, now I want to show you something more. This contact us, it mustn't be an external link. It can also be a section within the page. Now what do? I want to add something just before our footer. I want to add something just before. Okay, let me add it in our footer. Let me add it in our footer, and then I will say let me declare another div. And remember, I'm going to give that div a class of the first div, and the class is, let me see the class I gave to the divs, sections. All right, so sections. So you can see now, if you will observe that a div will automatically appear on the footer. All right, you see that it appeared on the footer now because, and it inherited those colors. All right, why you are not seeing, why this one is not transparent is because the color of the footer is not transparent. So the color of the footer is blocking it. All right, so that is not a problem. You know why it is not transparent like other divs, because this footer here has a blue color which is not transparent, so it's not going to override its parent's element. All right, so I want to add the form here, and in this form, in this section, I'm going to add the form. Action, I will say the action should be submit. The action should be submit. Okay, so our action should be submit, and then let's put just one input. The first input, the type is test. Okay, type is test. All right, let's see, and I'm going to say you can see that we now have a place here. Now we're going to say type is test, and I'm going to say value name. All right, so that is it. So it's going to add name, or instead of saying value, I will say placeholder. All right, so that there will be a name, but immediately you start typing inside it, the name will disappear. But if I put value, it will put the name, then you have to clean it. So but before then, I want to say this, our first input, I will say h3, I will say full name. All right, so let's have our second input. And let me copy this. I have our second input, and I will say email, and then in a placeholder I'm going to say valid email please. So we're just trying to create a simple about us form. All right, let me to say email here. All right, let's see what we have. All right, let's see what we have. We now have full name, email. All right, so this is a simple contact us page. Now the final thing we're going to do is to add a test area. We're going to add the test area, and in test area, first of all, I'm going to say our h3 again, copy. Let me add something here. Before our test area, I will say your message. And then in our, let me increase the row and the column. Let me make it 50. Okay, let me leave it the way it is. All right, so text area, I'm going to have a placeholder for it. I'm going to have a placeholder. I will say type your message here. All right, type your message here. Let's see what we have. We can see that we now have a text. This is a simple contact us form. All right, so the person's full name, the person's email, and the person's message that they want. Now the next thing we're going to say is to have a submit button. To have a submit button, and let me say input button. All right, input button. So we type his button. We're going to say then within this button I'm going to say submit. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we have a button now. They say we have, the submit is okay, so the value should be submit. All right, so I'm going to add a break so that the submit button can come below. So I want to add a break tag here so that the submit button can come below. All right, so we now have a submit button below here. All right, so this is a simple contact form. So we want to reference it to this contact us now. So what are we going to do? We go to that link of contact us now, and we're going to, where is that link? Contact us now. We're going to reference it to the ID. Now we have to give our form an ID so that we can reference it there. All right, this is our form, and I'm going to say the ID of the form should be form. All right, so we go back to our contact form and reference our ID and say form. All right, so let's see what happens now. So we go here, and when we click on contact us, we added target blank. Let's see what happened. Target blank, this is the issue. Okay, it's not supposed to be there because now we are just trying to reference something. All right, so let's know why that happened. Contact us. We can now see that when we click on contact us, it took us to the form. Let me do that again. Let's click back to top. We go back to our top, we go to contact us, and then in our contact us we click on contact us now, and it took us to the button, to the contact page. So now I can now enter my name, my email address, now type in my message, and I'm going to click on submit. When I click on submit, nothing happens because we are not collecting this form. To collect this form, we work on the back end, which is PHP and SQL, to be able to collect the form and the details of the form. So but this is just the front end. We are not collecting the form, so nothing will happen. But I've been able to show you that you can create a simple web page in which everything is in one page. So you create on contact us, it will still come here. So we can still create another section that contains our blog post. All right, and then we reference it as well, and then make it to scroll to that section whenever we click on visit our blog. Or we create another section that talks more about the website or about the company that we are designing the website for. So let's quickly have a recap. First of all, we click on contact us. You see that it takes you to contact us. We click on contact us now, it takes you to the form, and when we click on back to top, it takes us back to the top. And then when we scroll, you can see that everything is scrolling because our background is fixed. So that's how to create a very simple one-page website. It's just the trick. It's all the power of ID. There's nothing else. It's all the power of ID. Giving an ID to the sections, and then you reference them in your links, and that is all that will make that to happen. So that is that to that. Let me hear what you think. Did you understand? Did it work for you? Of course it should work for you if you follow everything that I have taught. Once more, I want to plead with you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel, share, subscribe, like this video. In fact, make it go viral to your friends so that they can as well join you to learn what you are learning. It's totally free, and it's totally free. God bless you. If you have any question, drop it in the comment section, and you can also contact me privately if you want for me to explain some things to you. I will be very glad to do that. All right, have a wonderful day or weekend, or whichever one that you are into right now. God bless you.